and Burnley will... one step closer to relegation if they don't pick up all 3 points in what is a huge game live on talkSPORT 2 at 3 o'clock today against Sheffield United. Sheffield look gone already. They're 10 points adrift of safety, but not mathematically out of it, of course. But a Burnley win would see them close the gap to safety to just 3 points. With all 3 promoted sides in the bottom 3 and maybe only still with a fighting chance due to points deductions for both Forest and Everton, boss Vincent Kompany said that the gap between the top 2 divisions, so that's the Championship and the Premier League, seems to be getting bigger than ever.
You talk about the gap between the Premier League and the Championship, I would agree, and the lower divisions. But if you look at the Premier League, when I joined the Premier League, there was a top 3 who became a top 4. And since then it's 5 and 6, and you're nearly at 7 now because teams like Newcastle and are joining that race. So I'd certainly say that there's more teams adding to that top of the league.
Is the gap getting bigger between the Championship and the Premier League?
I'd agree.
Has it all? I mean...
Well, it's always been tricky, but look at the clubs have come up. How difficult they found it now. It's been a real hard season for Sheffield United. Yeah. They have done really well, but they're still in the bottom 3, and they feel like they've overachieved and they've done really well. And he's talking from experience. Vincent Kompany's a really good talker. And he's speaking from experience of how he's had to try and battle his way in the Premier League. And what was needed in the Championship to get out of it, you need way more to stay in it. And I think he's found that out this season. I mean, this is a really interesting game, as in the fact that I think Burnley won 5-0 at home in the home game, didn't they?
Yeah, they were back, in December. Yeah.
Oh, that's a revenge game, isn't it? If you're thinking they're second from bottom and we're bottom, okay, we won't leapfrog them, but just get closer to them, I think it's a big incentive there for Sheffield United today.
The only issue I have with what Vincent Kompany says, I understand that, of course, there is a gap. I mean, but equally, we tend to see the same teams battling out for promotion in the Championship, i.e. the team that has come down, or the teams that come down, tend to be in the promotion battle. There's only once in Premier League history when all 3 promoted teams have then gone down the next season. So it's not quite right in the sense that teams can at least extend their stay in the Premier League for more than a season. Now, obviously, the battle is, can they sustain it and can they prolong and be a healthy Premier League club for the future? That's the difference. But
my argument would be that recruitment is so pivotal that you have to get every player right for you to stay up. And if you don't, if you sign 5 players now and 2 work and 3 don't, you're probably going to get relegated. You're going to need all 5 to work for you. And I think that's ultimately the difference when you're coming up from the Championship to the Premier League, is that recruitment is so vital. Vincent has had to do 2 enormous, rebuilding jobs at Burnley. One for the team that got promoted from the Championship and then lost lots of players again and changed a lot of personnel to bring in. He had to get every one of them right. And they haven't.
Looking at the fixtures then, Sheffield United... and they're 10 points from safety. They've got a very difficult run in the sense that they're either taking on teams who are fighting out for Europe, so that's Manchester United, Newcastle, finishing off with Spurs, and then they've got teams who are in the relegation battle. So there's no team that they're taking on that won't have anything to play for, basically.
That's
Sheffield United.
Sheffield United, yeah.
So that makes this game a must-win if they are to have any chance of staying up. Are we silly to even have that conversation to have any chance of staying up?
No, I think the club's preparing already. For the
Championship.
You try and win games and you see where you get to. But I think it's all about now what sort of team Sheffield United are going to have next season in the Championship.
Yeah.
And I think there's about 15 out of contract at Sheffield United in the summer. I think I know it's in double digits. I think it's about 15. So if that's the number, that means he's got a massive rebuilding job to do at Sheffield United in the summer. So he'll be looking at younger players and maybe giving a few others of even out the academy in summer. And then thinking the loans and signings he can do next season, because they won't survive this year. You saw them. They've had a real hard year.
Yeah,
but the writing was on the wall start of the season, wasn't it?
Well, you could argue that, certainly. I mean, it's interesting, though, because obviously we played them last weekend. And look, I'm only going on what I saw. I don't see them week in, week out. But they were a team that were fighting. They were a team that had encouraging moments. I mean, there wasn't enough quality in the game anyway from either side. I think in the end it was just Brentford just raised their game a little bit more in the second half, got a fortuitous which deflected in, of course, for an own goal. But then once they had that first goal, it did feel as though Brentford were always going to go on to win that game once they scored. But I just thought there was a bit more encouragement. They didn't look like a team that were done and dusted and were languishing in bottom place, and you know what I mean, and were so out of it. So there was encouragement is what I'm trying to say. But equally, how do you measure it when you're taking on a relegation rival? Maybe both sides are poor in quality. As for Burnley, of course, Cass, they come into this dropping yet more points in a game that they were ahead in against Brighton, and another, sadly, goalkeeping mistake from Ariane Muric. That following on from what happened against Everton the week before, when he'd taken too long to clear the ball, and by the time he eventually went to clear the ball, Dominic Calvert-Lewin had charged in on him. He hit the ball against the Everton striker and it went into the back of the net. This time around, he sort of, I don't know, spent too the net. What did he do?
He shut his eye off the ball.
That's it. Yeah. Exactly. Misread the pass back, basically. Went under his foot and into the goal. In that sort of situation, and it seems as though Vincent Kompany's decided, look, you're my number one now. How do you deal with a player that might be a little bit low in confidence? 2 mistakes in a row that have cost your team. Or does he bring James Trafford back in?
It's hard to answer that, because it's a mistake that's so, if we look at kids football now and we watch it, that's something that might happen in the kids game.
Yeah.
And it happens rarely in football that a goalkeeper, puts his foot. So many of them are gifted with their feet anyway. It's a horrendous mistake that's cost them 2 points. Yeah. And they, he'll look back at this season. There will be moments that he'll look back and think, do you know what? We could have been better in many different ways this year. But I firmly believe that they'll have a side next year, and I'm sure he'll stay at the football club company.
Yeah. I just feel like that. Sheffield United against Burnley is live on talkSPORT 2 for you this afternoon. It kicks off at 3 o'clock. Not available on UK television, but you can hear every minute of that with us. Our live commentary, though, kicks off with a championship clash between Leicester and West Brom. That's right here on talkSPORT from 12:30. At the same time, over on talkSPORT 2, you can listen into the Women's Champions League semi-final first leg between Barcelona and Chelsea. Game Day Live comes your champion 30 here on talkSPORT with Adrian Durham and the team as they bring you right up to date with all the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Then it's all eyes on Wembley for Chelsea against Manchester City in the FA Cup semi-final, live here on talkSPORT 5:15. That gets on underway. And then at 7:30 we're back in the Premier League for a bonus game as Wolves take on Arsenal right here on talkSPORT. We have everything covered for you. It's going to be a busy day. Cass, I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. On the way next, it's the warm-up with Max Rushton and Charlie Baker.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.